call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Before I even start today, Kyra deserves a lot of credit here. We've had some issues that you folks don't even see. It's unbelievable how well she's handled those. And thank you, Kyra, for all you do. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes here. So.
Every day.
Yeah, to say the least. So anyway, call the meeting in order. Is there anyone here for public comment? All right.
On the agenda.
We'll move on to the minutes.
I'll move on the minutes.
There's a motion.
I'll second.
And a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any questions or discussions on those? All right. With that, we'll call a question. Then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried. Yeah, we got Harley there too. Thank you, Harley. Financial statement. Are we solvent, Kyra? For a while?
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
I'm not the treasurer on this.
You may have to be the assistant treasurer.
Sean's gonna be late, stuck by a train.
Oh.
I'll move on the financial report.
Thank you. We've got a motion.
I'll second that.
And a second to approve the financial statement. Any questions? Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Harley, did we hear Harley? Might have lost her.
Still there, Harley?
Yeah.
We'll take that as a yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Move on to the engineer's report. Gentlemen, take it over.
Do we want to start with the terminal update?
Yep, that'd be great.
Perfect, Robert.
In fact, the timing couldn't be better.
All right, we'll start with the terminal update. Hopefully everybody has the memo. We don't have many updates, but I'm looking for some more from Steve and Nate today, if Nate is on the line. But I'll get started. So the first item is the PA system. Last time we did realize that the overhead speakers were still attached or still working. And so we were, KA is investigating the costs associated with getting somebody out there to disconnect them. And I don't know, Steve, do you have any further updates on that?
I was able to connect with Waylon Yo from Brothers Fire yesterday, late afternoon, early evening. As luck has it, he's planning or having a technician in International Falls next week sometime. I think there's some other, I'm not sure if it's at the airport or where it is, but he has some other service work to do. So that's good in the sense that there wouldn't really be any mileage or additional trip charges. So their hourly rate is $125 an hour to kind of do whatever we need them to do, go up and maybe disconnect 2 or 4 or 6 speakers, whatever are up in the ceiling area of that secure gate lounge. Shouldn't really take more than a couple hours, I wouldn't imagine. So I'd anticipate a $500 bill maybe to get that taken care of and see how it reacts at that point.
Okay, when did you say he was going to be up there, Steve? Next week?
I'm not sure exactly which day, but one day next week he's intending to be there to do some other service work already. I'll have to find out exactly what day that is.
Okay. So hopefully that will resolve the issue. We'll see how that goes once they are disconnected. Next, any other questions on the generator? I'm sorry, on the PA system before we move forward. Okay, so the next item on the list is the generator, which last item there is the testing protocol, which we did receive, and I did write that into the memo. That was just via email, and I guess my question for Thor and Steve, we haven't had a chance to connect on this yet, is that sufficient testing protocol for you?
From my perspective, it is.
Okay.
Steve, your opinion?
Yeah, I think so. There's certainly the required annual test and I believe monthly tests. It's wise to look at the memo that does suggest to put a load test on it for 30 to 60 minutes once a month so that
Yes.
that engine does get brought up to temperature. But yeah, I agree. I think that's a good list.
Okay.
Okay. And there have been no further issues with the generator, Thor?
Negative. Since we did the major overhaul, it's been running flawlessly.
Okay, good to hear.
Very good.
Next item on the list is boiler number 2, which, Thor, can you confirm that it is still operating?
Yes, I hate to say it's operating flawlessly because it'll fail, but yeah, it's literally now after obviously the whole team knows the amount of work and changes what have you that we did to the system. It is now working correctly, so we hope and pray it continues.
Well, that's good news.
It is.
Good news that it continues to work. Okay, next item on the list is the connection between phase 1 and 2. And Steve, do you have any updates on that?
I do. We were able to get FAA permit clearance to do a drone flight over the top of the building and do some thermal camera imaging, and that is scheduled for next Tuesday evening and or Wednesday morning, weather dependent. So we'll have our drone crew up from Minneapolis come up Tuesday afternoon, and when it is dusk or post-dusk, if the weather is conducive, they'll do a flight and take some thermal images. So hopefully the weather will be a little cooler. If anything blocks them from getting that done Tuesday night, the backup plan is do it again on Wednesday morning, pre-dawn.
Okay. And I'm going to skip ahead past the jet bridge because that's what we do today. Closeout paperwork is continuing. So there is still money left, bond funds left, and so we're working to close that out to see what the final payments will be. And the last item on that I have on my list is the jet bridge. So they are scheduled to be up in April to do some additional work on the jet bridge, and then what happened then with the screeching and it being out of commission. And the videos that were taken, we did send to John Borowitz at Amer Bridge. And Steve, can you report on what John was saying about that?
Well, I think their initial response is it has their full attention up to and including the company president. They were, reviewing and researching, and we're going to get back to us, but that was, a week and a half ago or whenever, and I haven't really heard much from them since. When I queried them on the status yesterday, they replied back or reminded me that they had sent me an email that I had misplaced from last Thursday asking for any current maintenance records the airport may have on the jet bridge. which was a little disappointing. It almost felt like they were, just deferring and trying to get around an immediate answer. Thor was, I guess I'll say, kind in his reply, as kind as you can be under, such a request. There really is no maintenance records per se, and I suspect that's related more to the screeching or anything else on the unit, not necessarily the panel that fell from the ceiling, but nonetheless, that is a very dangerous situation. And I suspect a lot of it was from the ice and water infiltration that has continued to happen at that connection point between the bridge section and the rotunda. That is, in essence, what they were coming up in April to add some sort of a cover to shed the water away from that connection point. So I don't really have any other updates than that. I've not talked to John Barowitz at Amer Bridge, other than the email correspondence that we've had over the last week and a half. So I'll try to reach out to him today. I certainly did share, Thor's thoughts that, no, there's no maintenance records. This is serious. We need their attention. We need it now.
Yeah, in that perfect sequence, Steve, well done, your description. I didn't realize when we first contacted them, I missed it in the email chain, that their first response was they wanted to see the maintenance records. That was after they were literally told, hey, a 50-pound 4x5, which we have in the meeting today, which is great, and actually it was, 45 pounds?
I just weighed it, it's 45 pounds.
45 pounds on the scale, ladies and gentlemen, sharp edges, and literally, by the grace of God, no one got seriously injured. And their first response is, it's very, that's hard to deal with that response. You would think that I've heard nothing from them, Steve, since the event. That's why I revisited again yesterday. I gave them some time. I certainly thought they would be reaching out with emails and phone calls and telling us their arrival date and wow, we're so thankful no one got killed. We're sorry, et cetera, et cetera. And their first position is they go defensively and ask about maintenance records. So I got a little angry. Maybe that email wasn't that professional. I apologize, but I don't know what to do, frankly. It has been a subpar piece of equipment from the day we turned the switch on. It's been a nightmare.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And I would like to know what maintenance records has to do with a panel.
Right.
How do you maintain a panel falling off there that's riveted onto the roof panel? And the next thing that's going to fall is the light that's up there, a 4-foot light that could fall because it's just hanging there now. And this is a jet bridge. It's only getting used 12 times a week versus one in Minneapolis is probably getting used 12 times a day. And we're not even 3 years into it, and it's falling apart. This is getting ridiculous. Had a flight attendant that came in yesterday and said, your jet bridge is down again? And these flight attendants, there's hundreds of them come in here. She's probably been in here 4 times in the last 3 years, but it happens probably to be the 4 times that the jet bridge has been down. It's getting ridiculous, especially when you think 45 pounds. If somebody had been walking underneath there, we would have had a serious injury. Somebody would have ended up in the hospital.
I don't know how more. The frustrating part is, I don't know what more you can do to get their attention unless you take a legal stance. We obviously have the answer from them of their concern over the issue. Clearly, I mean they're yelling at us, right?
And I'm not even going to the screeching part,
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah,
I got it on my phone. I can play it.
Yeah, it's there's major.
There's something going on.
Oh yeah.
In fact, I've got a piece down in the office of Teflon that fell out of it, off where, I'm
Correct.
sure that's part of the screeching is there's no Teflon or grease or anything there. So.
Well, if this were Rochester or MSP or Duluth, they'd be there fixing it. I don't know what's going on here. But this April, that's crazy.
Yeah. Because I'm at the point of getting Steve Shimon involved if I have to.
Yeah.
Because this is getting ridiculous.
Yep.
We should.
Steve, remind me, we're still withholding some funds from Amer Bridge?
Yes.
Carver says yes.
We have about 10,000 that we're withholding yet.
Yeah, it's in here, 10,900. So.
Yep, $949.58.
They'd be glad to walk away from that. And just,
Yeah,
I think we're going to have to force
they're
this.
gonna 10 to them is a pass, right?
Exactly.
It's easy.
They didn't speech for.
Just the way they're responding tells me they are in no hurry to take care of this.
And like
Yeah,
Holly
so I-
said, she gets Delta involved. You know, they're gonna pull rent, they're gonna pull everything.
Holly's gonna.
So,
The next move is to go to SkyWest and say we're done paying rent here.
Yeah.
Steve, you had something?
Yeah, I'll certainly contact Amer Bridge today. I'll follow up. I'll keep going up the food chain, as high as I possibly can to make sure we get their attention. Two parts to this, one is service, the other is constructability, obviously, and it seems those rivets in the picture of the panel did not seem to be mushroomed out enough to, initially on their very original installation, to hold that panel in place for very long. So with movement, with vibration, obviously it fell down. That is an extremely dangerous situation. So to me, they may need to come up, send a crew to check more than just that panel. Maybe there are other panels that ought to be checked at the same time and make sure that light is secured. The screeching sound seems to me that occurred once before. It was that neoprene or Teflon pad underneath on the pivoting rotunda frame that, sounds like it has again somehow dislodged itself, came out. If that's a service piece that they need to come up and do a service call, or certainly it's kind of a wear and tear thing, I suspect. So the airport would be welcome to call any service company, maybe even the company out of Minneapolis, if they had any capacity to come up and do that type of service. But nonetheless,
Also, Steve, I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, also, Steve, this morning, it is probably already in your possession. Haney is sending you some records. I didn't realize that he had them in his possession. I'd be honest with the group. I didn't know. But you probably have in your possession now. Take a look, and if you don't, you'll have it soon.
Actually,
It's in the
I
binders.
did, yeah. He
The electronic
just sent
binders.
that about 8 minutes ago.
Okay.
So that's great. I'll pass that on. But certainly they're planning on being up there anyway to take care of the gap between the bridge section and the rotunda, to add this, either hard or flexible cover so it does shed the water away from that gap. So at that same time, they can certainly address the other issues, and it's time now maybe to get them up there sooner than later. April is next week, so let's try to get them up in the next few days if we can and get this addressed.
My concern is April could be 5 weeks.
Yeah.
They say
I
April.
was gonna
When
say,
they say April.
Steve, can we
Just looking at the weather out here right now.
Steve, can we try and nail them down on an actual date? Just because it's been several months ago, they said they would come up in April, and they really just didn't. They just set the month, not the date.
Yeah, under the circumstances, I would think they should be absolutely willing to get up there
It's
quickly.
not functional now. Come down.
No, it's not yet. Exactly.
It's not functional now. They gotta come down. It's not functional.
Right.
I mean,
Now for 10 days.
Precisely. We want to get it done and fixed and back in service.
Well, Steve, would you do this? Make those connections and get back to us, because if it's not satisfactory, I think I'd like to get the board together here. We're going to take some action.
Get an attorney involved. So.
Agreed.
Always seems
Yes.
to take an attorney, doesn't it?
I know.
This deal.
Complain about them, but then we had to use them.
Isn't it true?
I'd send you down there, but you'd end up in jail. So.
How much vacation?
Maybe back in the day, Wayne. Maybe.
We need you here.
I'm old now.
How much vacation time do you have?
Yeah, we're good.
Well, it is really frustrating. I just can't tell you how upset I am.
Oh, it's crazy. I think that's.
All right, thank you, Steve. Anything else?
I think that's it for our list. Is there anything else, Thor, that you're aware of?
No, not at
Anyone
this
else?
time. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thank you, Bob, too. Appreciate it. All right,
we'll continue to forge forward.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Move on. Sean and Casey are next, I believe. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see everyone. Good to be here. The memo already should be in your packets. So kind of a lighter meeting agenda for us today. I can skim through the first three pretty quickly. Phase 1 and Phase 2, we're obviously waiting for the snow to go away. Surprised by that, the lack of snow that's out there. So kind of interesting for March. But once the conditions allow, we'll be back up wrapping up Phase 1, Phase 2, as well as the weather balloon facility relocation. So no work is performed. We're just waiting to do those final cleanup, final payment items. Phase 3, we've been talking about, excuse me, for a couple months. The work is projected to start on May 24th, and we do have a pre-construction meeting coming up on April 14th, so Thor and I are planning for that with Chelsea, and we'll get that scheduled to kind of start gearing up for work in May. We have been working with FAA, both the reimbursable agreement folks. They've been interested in the schedule. There's also flight checks where they have to come and check all the instrument approach procedures and the navigational aids. All that is being scheduled. We've had previous discussions concerning a temporary easement around the Spildy property. We have worked with some grading alternatives that can avoid any impacts to that property, so I think that's really good news. So we're going to be able to, as part of one of the early phases of the project, get that to be FAA standards without impacting the property. And one item just on the grant itself. So, and Kyrie, you might have to help me out with this one. This is the MnDOT grant. Typically, FAA will pay 95%. The state would pay 2.5%. In this case, the airport received bonding money to cover essentially the other 5%. So your share and MnDOT's share. So MnDOT's asking for their money back. That's pretty much how I got it. I believe, Kyrie, everything working out fine for that?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Where do you call that? Goes, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny how they're quick to ask for their money back, but we're still waiting on Phase 2, but that's a different story. But there is more than enough bond money for this to cover both your share and MnDOT's share, so there's no concern there. Essentially, the bond ask was made for Phase 2 and 3, but since the bonding bill came late, we couldn't go back and get Phase 2. So there's more than enough, and I think one strategy that Casey and I are working with MnDOT is to see if that can be used for 422 reconstruction, your upcoming crosswind runway reconstruction, or potentially Phase 4, which is the south end of the runway. So we don't want the money to go to waste. You've been given it, so we'll try to spend it as best we can and help improve some of that pavement out there. That's it for the runway work.
Yeah, I'll give a brief update for the ARP truck. So we've been working with the FAA to work on the justification package to basically be able to replace your truck with a similar sized truck that you currently have. Current guidance would default to replacing it with a much smaller truck. And just given kind of your wet environment up here and other factors, there's definitely a benefit to keeping the truck size that you have. It has more capacity for water and any chemicals. So definitely kind of good all around to be able to replace it with that larger truck. We did put together, I think a couple months ago now, the first package that went to the FAA, and basically the things that they look at is mutual aid response time from, in your case, the City of International Falls. And that kind of helps build the justification why that larger truck makes sense in cases like yours, where it does take, an amount of time for other response to get here. Thief River Falls just did something similar last year when they purchased an ARP truck. And had a similar justification package where they documented how long it would take the city to respond to some sort of incident at the airport. So we put that together, sent it to the FAA. The certification inspector, who is one of the reviewers of the package, wanted additional information from the fire department. So the fire chief was great to work with and provided some input that we put together, sent it back in. They've asked for more information, and we just sent that off yesterday. So we'll see where it goes, but we're working on justifying all of the minutes of the response time from the fire department. I don't know, Thor, do you have anything more to add?
She's very, well done. Yeah, she gave you the edited version. Everything she said was 100% accurate, but she didn't. Let's just go with the frustration of this process is beyond. It's interesting. The minutes, the response time, refill times, how many team members, et cetera, she's very accurate in case you're responding. The more information we're feeding the beast, the more beast needs to chew, right? She's kind of a description of the inspector, and so we're still providing information. We're still putting it together, and I'm really not sure how much more we could provide. I'm not sure. I'm assuming we'll be getting down to blood types of all team members, and et cetera.
I was wondering if we needed to, for the volunteer firefighters, have their home address and document each one, drive time from their place of employment.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. So, yeah. Refill times of the truck on the airport, response times, refill times of the truck. I could go on for an hour. And we've documented it all, and it's interesting.
Sounds like the government CYA, for lack of a better word.
Yes. And this particular person enjoys this very much. But I can't say enough for Casey and Sean and Shelson. Very helpful. It's a difficult process.
So we'll see what they say with the latest package that we've sent. Chelsea sent that off yesterday. So.
Yeah, I just wait. What's the next requirement going to be, right? What was the last question? What was the response time for the people to get to the fire hall?
Yeah, it was because we
get to us, right?
Yeah, we had estimated with the fire chief that from the time a call's made, it could take 15 minutes to get here because they're only staff. Sometimes one person. They need to wait for a full crew to arrive at the fire station and then drive here.
Yeah.
And the response was, well, we don't understand why it takes 15 minutes. We understand that you need to wait for additional staff.
Yeah.
So they understood that, but they still wasn't clear why it would take that long, understanding that people needed to come from somewhere else.
Right. And the questions in this particular inspector, the questions we deal with this person on a regular basis, and the person asks questions in such a manner that they're almost unanswerable. It's a no-win scenario answer every time. And that really is a reflection of what we do with it totally here, right? It's always a no-win question. You can't answer it correctly. You can't. It's just,
Not very collaborative.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Kyra just went through a similar situation. Literally took years.
Oh, yes.
It's unbelievable. It's just the government part of work.
Yeah.
You should wonder how we.
Well, they don't understand rural America.
And
We don't have 20 guys sitting in a fire station that can hop in the truck and get there.
Right.
It's a volunteer deal, and some of them live out of the city. They're allowed so many minutes out of the city. I think they're held to like a 10 or 15 minute response time to the fire hall. So to get to the fire hall, then you're going to have 10 minutes from the fire hall to here.
Right, and a lot of them use their own personal vehicles and just go right to that.
Yeah, they don't report to the fire. Normally they go right to they'd come right here.
Right, they come right here, but they might be at work or whatever.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Well, for some reason that's challenging for.
It's fascinating of all the regulations that we have to deal with, and this particular one dealing clearly on human safety, right? Clearly a real issue. We clearly have the oldest truck in the world in the airports of the 9 airports in Minnesota, which is fine. I'm not complaining about it at all. But I'm just saying is that they're pushing back so hard. They're requiring us to buy a new truck, but they won't let it. It's fascinating. It's just You think the one thing that they would look into the quote unquote not gray area, but you guys make the spec, we're good. you'd think that this would be that subject matter, but that's not the case. Just the opposite, actually.
Yeah, everyone's trying to cover themselves, huh? Terrible.
Well, we'll continue to pursue the packet, and assuming that all goes well, do you want to cover the spec and the bidding for the truck?
Sure. So, the main point of doing this, and we'll get to the funding component later, but, once the FAA justifies the type of equipment or piece of equipment that you're eligible for, then you have the opportunity to go out and solicit bids for a new piece of equipment that the FAA has approved. And the certification inspector basically, it's a good truck. I mean, the way it is now, but it's old. It's a little bit up there in years, and the certification inspector is on record saying you need a new truck. So that's kind of where we're at. We're trying to get the waiver to get the new truck.
Yeah.
It says we need a new truck, but we're just justifying the type and size of the truck. And we're working through the grant timeline. All the grant applications are due on May 3rd. So most likely, once we hear good information on the waiver on the size of the truck, we'll solicit bids for a new truck, and that would be part of your 2021 grant application, which we'll cover here in a moment. So, all waiting on word from the FAA. I think it's good. I think the pieces are there, so we just need the formal piece and we'll advertise for the truck.
Not a lot more ring kissing required, I don't think. We may have. We shall see.
So that,
what a dumb thing to say at a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, we're out in third base.
So at your April meeting, if things are going well, there'll be consideration for the quotes that have been received for that truck. So we're working with Thor on the specifications, and we will solicit those. Do you think we'll need permission to advertise, or is that not sure? Probably.
I would, just to be safe.
Sure. Okay. So, and it's over a certain dollar threshold, so we do have to publicly advertise in the local paper as well as other trade journals. So, with your consideration, unless is there another place on that on the agenda, or should we cover that now? So, with that, consider that advertisement.
Good. So you need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion. We advertise if everything goes good.
Got a motion by Walt, second by Terry. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
One quick item on another project that we've scheduled for 2021 is the Rehabilitation of Runway 422, your crosswind runway. So the FAA is supportive of rehabilitating that runway, and basically that's replacing the pavement on that project. So this would be a design-only project. So the construction will happen in a future year, but the FAA is supportive of starting that design process and making sure we have enough time to kind of work through that element with all the other projects we have going on. That proposal has been reviewed by FAA, and we'll have that presented in April.
The other project for this year is the building area planning study. So that's kind of a focused master planning effort, really only looking at, the hangar, FBO, apron area. So a small planning effort. We met with the FAA a couple weeks ago to kind of just talk about the scope. Thor and Kyra, you were on the call too, yeah. Thor and Kyra, and just kind of talked about the airport's goals for the study, just to make sure the FAA didn't have any questions. That all went well. We prepared a draft scope that went to the FAA to review. I think just yesterday, the FAA responded they didn't have any comments. So we are wrapping that up, and then Kyra will work with you to get through the IFE process here over the next month, and expect to have a contract to present to you at your April meeting. Any questions on that project? All right. So some funding updates. We did submit the bonding bill. We did submit the pre-agreement packet to MnDOT. to allow access to the 2020 bond funds. So we'll see if MnDOT has any comments or needs any additional information, but that has been submitted. The state companion grant for the 2019 grant. So this is for the discussion on the phase 2 reimbursement and getting MnDOT support for that. It feels, based on the feedback we've gotten, that it would be really difficult to amend, the language in the bond to allow for, like Sean said earlier, that retroactive use of bond funds. So we are continuing to work with MnDOT to kind of retroactively get some sort of grant for what they would have typically covered for state funding. And, hopefully the fact that, they get to get their money back for the following year will help the conversation for the earlier year. So we'll see where that goes, but continuing to navigate that conversation with MnDOT. The CRISA grant awards. So this is the coronavirus relief that was passed in late December by Congress. INL received just a little over $1 million. And have you received all the grant paperwork for that yet?
Yes, I'm just waiting on an addendum to this.
Okay. So that is pretty similar to your CARES funding that you received that you can submit for reimbursement. There's some minor differences, but your general operational expenses, salaries, things like that you could get reimbursed for under CARES, you can still get reimbursed for under CRISA. And you do have a couple years to spend the money. And yeah, so good news there with that money. And Kyra, let us know if you have questions on any of the eligibility or processing with MnDOT or FAA. And the really good news, just the other week, the latest stimulus funding that was passed by Congress does include 100% funding for this year's FAA projects as part of the relief package. So all of your projects this year will be 100% funding. So the runway design, building area study, and your large truck. So good year to have a project and take advantage of that 100% funding.
Perfect.
There may be some additional, the FAA hasn't really indicated how they will be spending. There is money in there that, similar to CARES and CRISA, goes to airports for use for some operational expenses. So you may be getting another grant to cover something similar to that. There hasn't been a lot of guidance released, but there may be additional benefit to international falls beyond the 100% funding as well. CIP updates, so just list the projects anticipated for this year there. The other one we didn't chat about is the SRE plow acquisition, also as the other project plan for this year. And then upcoming meeting dates, we've got another meeting with MnDOT to talk about just kind of the recurring meeting with the bonding funding, see if they have any comments on the pre-agreement packet, and then as Sean mentioned, the phase 3 pre-con meeting in April. That's all we have, unless there's any questions or comments on any of the items.
Is there something previous on the parking lot, or not? At the previous meeting? Some work on the parking lot?
Yeah, I believe there was an option to do parking lot rehabilitation, crack sealing, seal coating, and painting. There was I think Tracy, if I remember right, indicated the FAA didn't have that as an eligible project. So it was lined up for state funding, and that grant hasn't been off. That's how I understand it, unless it's different. So it's still a viable project, just there's no funding allocated yet for it.
The money seems to be flowing there's no end to it. I wonder where we're leaving our kids and grandkids and myself.
Well, if we were to get any more of that stimulus money, could we use that for doing the parking lot? Or do you gotta go through the hoops?
Yeah, so that's one difference with the CRISA money is that you can't use it on any development projects. With CARES, you can. And do you have CARES funding left, Kara? Because that would be, if you wanted to, you could use CARES money for improvements to the parking lot. You just can't use the newer CRISA money can't be used for a development project.
Well, I think that's something we should look at.
Yeah.
If we're, it's probably a use or lose. we ought to be looking carefully at that and saying, hey, what's it going to cost us to do that? And if we have the money and we can use it,
It's the time to do it.
it'd be a good time to get that parking lot fixed up.
And you could also, if MnDOT did offer you a grant, you could cover your local share with the CARES money as well. So you could maybe make the best of both worlds and kind of use both. I will say MnDOT has had, it appears that the money is flowing a little bit better from MnDOT, and I think a lot of that is last year's projects for FAA were 100% funded, and this year's projects. So you think of, they typically have to pay 5% of all the projects in the state, which now they don't have to. So that should open up more opportunities for them to fund other projects like your parking lot. So, hopefully they're able to come through on that project, but you could definitely use CARES to cover your local share for that.
All that money, mate, we should be able to get a brand new jet.
I was going to say, I was going to go there. I was going to say, why don't we?
I think it should be under warranty. Don't you think there's a warranty?
Should be underground as far as I'm concerned. That thing's terrible.
If I can just add one piece to it, I think
Karen.
that would be a really good idea because the airport's got $2 million to spend on operations in the next 4 years, and I just honestly don't foresee that happening. So if it's a lose it, use it or lose it type of situation, and if we can use that towards the careers, I think it's very important.
Let's take advantage of it. Absolutely.
I think we need to be aware of what we have money-wise and what other kind of projects we can come up with so that we can utilize it. I hate to lose it.
Right.
I would agree.
So we ought to be looking at where can we spend it and take care of those things.
Yes, please.
Just that fully funded, what does that translate into savings for the local share? Do you know?
Great question.
It's got to be significant amount of money.
For the
Right.
100%.
Yeah, for your projects this year. So I don't know what the total will be between all the different projects, but
Should be right at $1 million with the entitlement.
right.
I was going to say it's got to be around $1 million. It's going to save us.
Yeah, so I think it's around, in the neighborhood to $25,000 to $50,000, somewhere in that. I think it's just quick math.
The local.
Yes, the local share, yeah.
All right.
That's good.
Anything else from our engineers? Bob, you're pretty quiet up there.
Yes, he is.
I'm still here.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. Move on then to old business. Do you have anything, Karen?
Nothing for
Nothing there? Okay. New business, Whirly Motors.
No, that'd be me.
Oh,
So, I guess I'm here at the board to ask about, in reference to our lease agreement, because it was decided before that our lease agreement would increase $66 per month at the beginning of each year. I had spoken to Kyra not too long ago, and she said, I asked what our rate was. Well, it was at $244. Starting at 2021, it's supposed to be raised to $304, something in that area, but it hadn't been. So I'm asking if we can keep it at $244 for 2021, because my rentals are at least 40% down because of COVID, because of the border being closed, and employments are what, at least 48% is what I figured, but I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. And it's based on square footage. I don't know what our square footage was at the old terminal, but it was usable, and that's all I really needed. It was a tall booth, had storage underneath. I didn't have a back office. I don't really need a back office, but I have a back office because it's available. So that's what I'm asking board, is that for the year 2021, if we can just keep our rate, Whirly's rate, I don't know about the other people, if we can maintain it at 244 or whatever it is for the next year, because I don't see, employments might go up, but there's still COVID around. Not everybody's been vaccinated. The border opening up is very questionable for 2021 from what I've heard with Duty Free America. I don't see it happening until 2022, but a lot of our rent in the summer is based on tourists coming up and going into Canada. I mean, they're coming and fishing Rainy Lake and Tabatoga, but you know, I've had people call and make some reservations and say we're going to Canada, and it's like, I'll take you down, but I don't expect it to open.
Just as a footnote, you know, our local resorts had a fairly good year last year.
They had a great
they're
year.
looking good this year. Yeah. That's exactly why. They hit the Canadian border and can't go any further. They've been staying here. Yeah. Which
Right, and as a
good things.
Right, and as a rental car company, I've had people call and say, we're going to cancel, and I'm like, are you sure? Because maybe you'd like to fish in Minnesota, you know, Rainy Lake, Tabatoga, here's resorts I recommend, and they have come to do that.
If Pierre Trudeau has his way, Thor and I will never see our cabins again.
And that's exactly what he wants.
I know.
What you guys do to him?
He must have made him angry.
If I can
Yes,
add to that.
please, Tyra.
So, interesting note on that. Shortly after Laura came into the office and I gave her some information, I received an email from Lindsay at the FAA in regards to an addendum to our CURSA Act, or CURSA grant, which is strictly for concessions in our terminal. So that would mean rental car companies, city cab, you know, anyone that rents in here. It's an amount, and I put something in your package too of the email from Lindsay, but the amount for that concession or that will be added to the grant is $3,876. That can only be used for concession relief. So being said that, I did some calculation. It can only be used for 2020. It can't be, or no, for 2021. It can't be used before December 27th of 2020. So I did the calculation of what that increase for the rental car companies would be, along with city cab, which totaled about, $1,890 for 2021. That if we didn't increase their rent, we could use that money towards this CURSA grant and not raise their rent at all. That would leave about $1,900 at the start of 22, and we'll, reevaluate at that point, in November, December, see where things are at, and how, the rental increase may be for 22. Maybe we just, take 2021's rental increase, move it to 22, so it just kind of pushes things back a year or whatever, but we could reevaluate things, come towards the end of the year to see where things are at a little bit. But like I said, this funding can only be used for relief to the concessions.
Is that a recommendation?
Well, based on that, I would move to give relief to Whirly Motors for their
just do that, whatever that is,
for 2021.
And it's that amount is for all concessions.
All
so
concessions.
It would be Avis, City Cab,
Gotta
and
feed them all.
Do them all.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll make that second.
We've got a motion and a second. We had some adult supervision that helped.
I got a question. Can we use that money in 2022 then too?
yes.
Okay.
So that would go
So we
in
can-
with our grant. So it would be, I think, the 4 years of the grant. I haven't
Okay.
received the actual addendum quite yet, so I don't know
So
for
that's-
sure of the language in it.
That it will carry over then?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Because the other side of this request is that, if we've got to keep raising things, we may start losing.
Have we raised
That's
their rates or any of the other ones?
I have not yet.
Not any of them?
No.
Okay, so we don't have any back pay or nothing? then?
Right,
Okay.
there wouldn't be. And I would just send a letter out to each company and explaining, there is no increase due to, us receiving this funding and COVID and everything else. And then, we'll evaluate things towards the end of the year.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions on that? Motion would be for all the vendors, so. All right. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for bringing that up today.
Great.
Thank you, Kyra, for working on it. All right, manager's report.
Yes.
You are on, sir.
Real quickly, we are still working with the Park Service to get the new garage up on the east end of the terminal building and through that event.
And if anyone didn't see it, make sure you go down there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's nice.
Beautiful.
And through a series of unfortunate events, when during the process of applying it to the wall, they removed some sensors, the laser sensors for the alarm system, for the fire detection system. And as one would guess, that didn't go well. So 7,426 calls later, and back before the background, we're still working on the project. So it may go off now. Never mind. But the details are important. But we think we're under control now. So we'll get it back up and running. And, it's a variety of alarm systems and alarm companies, and the phone goes off at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Always something.
The terminal's on fire. I literally go better window. No, it's not. Anyway, that's another story. Sorry about that. But yeah, so we're making progress, as they say.
We were here for some of those fire alarms.
Yes. They're purposely annoying. Yes, they have. You get the horn and you get the voice. She sounds lovely after you've heard her 1,100 times. That's restful. Yeah. The strobe lights all night long. That's my favorite. Yeah, the parking lot. Yeah, we tried our best to mute that system. So you can't do that.
Or that Bob Coors designed an elevator that we didn't know about in Terminal Building.
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah. One of the codes was the elevator's on fire. No, it's not. Anyway, I blame Coors for all of this, by the way. Thank you.
We were here for
I heard that.
Yeah.
The fire department, you know, time their dispatch arrival. Yeah. Sorry.
So that's it. So that's
I can tell you this: no one panicked. Everyone was pretty calm at the airport tonight. So they kind of waltzed to the door and went around. It was sure. The city is literally fortunate to have an officer running the show. That's just the truth, and fantastic. And he finally got fed up, and he called us and he said, "Okay," he said, "I just want a yes or a no answer. Is the terminal building on fire? Isn't it?" I'm going. No, it is not. Thank you. Click. Anyway, I'm sorry. Okay. Sale of our older runway broom. Had conversations with Sean. Sean was helpful. Looking for the largest target area. Came up with the idea that we'd go through the League of Minnesota Cities. I'll contact Betty and get that on some type of bidding. We'll come up with the proper language and we thought, or I thought, to be specific, I thought let's hold on to the old broom for at least a year, see how the new one works out. We need backup, etc. And it hasn't been an issue. Takes up a lot of space in our already tight storage area for our normal equipment, so I'd recommend we do that. Okay, so that's it. Other than that, another day, and thank you for everyone's hard work. I mean that, and I apologize for my venting at the beginning regarding the jet bridge. It's just very frustrating. But thank you. I loved it. So. All right. Any questions for the manager? All right. Kyra, you're up. When you're ready there.
When you're ready. Yeah.
Employments are in the packet. Nothing too out of the ordinary for there. TSA lease, I'm still working on finalizing that lease, but I believe the end is sight, and I have sent the draft agreement to them, so I haven't received any kickback as of yet, so hopefully we're all good there. Same with the NOAA lease. That one we've been working on for several years as well. Wade and I met with the gentleman in regards to the lease yesterday, and again, we're very hopeful this will be cleared up soon and we'll have a new agreement in place. In terms of marketing and with the pandemic and everything, we have not been utilizing the funding like we normally do for radio advertisement and different things. So, the commission may want to look at some kind of promotional items or out of the box ways of trying to spend some of that marketing money. If we don't use it, again, we lose it. So we need to start looking at some different ways to utilize that. Even, KGHS, we haven't been running any or as many ads as we normally do with them either. So it's definitely down on that. And then the last piece I have is the administrative wage rate. In the past, the commission has followed suit with what the KETA does. On Monday, the KETA met and they approved a 2% wage increase.
So it would just be up to the commission if you wanted to follow suit with that. I can put it on next month's agenda if you wish, or however you'd like to proceed. So.
Comments, questions?
I would just make comment on employments. Things might be picking up because April 12th we were supposed to go to one flight a day, and they've retracted that, and we're leaving the schedule the same for the month of April. So that's a good thing. And April is typically our worst month.
Great.
So
Awesome.
not losing that flight a day is a good thing.
It's fantastic. Good. And that's, if I may, I'm sorry.
Yeah, please. No,
if I may add to that, that's a good point, Brian. I forgot to share that. Thank you. And in that, what's interesting about it is, that's even with, they have the option not to provide those flights, but still get paid for 2 flights a day, and they elected to continue on. So the contractual dialogue between Sky Delta and SkyWest is what's interesting there. The gate costs and what have you. I'm sure that all plays into the equation. So something drove them, which is great.
I'm just wondering about our marketing, especially in this environment. I mean, I still, because of what we saw last summer, I think we have an opportunity here to market the resorts and the fishing and get people up here.
I was going to mention that too, is that maybe we leave Canada alone until the border opens, but take marketing money and really saturate on this side, and even like the cities, and try and hit down there that, hey, we're open here. Rainy Lake is wide open.
Maybe it's something we could do through the chamber, or get some spots in the Twin Cities or something, trying to get people up here, because I just think there's an opportunity this year. People are at this point just kind of fed up and want to get out somewhere and go. So
I don't know about marketing in other areas for airports. I would have to double check on that. From what I recall in the past, we can't advertise where there's other commercial service. But I'll have to do some checking on that.
Okay.
Well, and maybe talking with the chamber then too. Maybe take that away to do it with all that. Because I think you're right. We can't do competition with the other airports. It's got to be a way to get people up here this year.
But didn't you advertise it for the Twins game? And aren't they supposed to have games this year?
Yeah, and they will. We will do those. But for we always have done the Broncos. We've done several other ones, a fishing derby, different things like that. None of those events are taking place, so they haven't had any radio advertisement for any of it. So, advertisement is really down.
I'm just wondering if in a roundabout way we couldn't work with the DCB and the chamber, or maybe some other organization, and then they go out and
good idea.
Without us doing it directly. Yeah. I'm just trying to get
offering support. I think.
I want to get our employments up and get people up here.
There's no one who wants that border open more than we do, right? But I'm seriously very pessimistic about that time frame. I don't think with due respect to our Canadian friends, they're fanatical. I mean, they inside their own country, they're so fearful of COVID. Traveling from province to province, and the physical altercations, and let alone the fines from the police or Canadian brother, what have you. I mean, they're serious about this.
And they're behind on their vaccination.
Yeah, all because of red tape.
Yes.
All because of protocol. It's insanity. And so I just don't see it. I would hope, but I don't think. I'm not optimistic about this summer at all.
Well, we've got Voyagers National Park, and here's a great opportunity, I think, to spotlight it. Come on, fly up here. Anyway.
Well, from what I understand, Northern Air Houseboats is full already. Awesome. And Rainy Lake Houseboats has only got a few openings.
Yeah, I asked the 2 guys working on the mural, what was going on in the park, and they said last year was way busy, and they anticipate that this year too, that use of the park will be way up.
So everything's not all bleak, except we can't.
And the hotels are full now because of the river fishing.
Yeah, it's true.
When I went to Duluth on last Thursday, there two dozen boats between here and Virginia heading north.
Yeah. We've got Nathan with his crews overseeing the landings, so there's no fights.
Yeah.
Gunfire too.
A classmate of mine came in on Friday from Roseau, and she said when she went by the Frontier Landing, it was packed. You know how they go across all the way past Char and Jill's. So it was packed.
I went past on Saturday. There was about 2 dozen there at Frontier.
Yeah.
Well, Kyra, you're out there too. I suppose you see a lot of traffic. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Any other business come before this group? Pretty quiet meeting. Must be because Bob was so quiet. He's usually a rabble rouser.
Always.
Well, I appreciate everyone being here. Next meeting date, Kyra?
We have set up.
8th of April?
28th? Perfect. I'll be back.
Will that work for everyone? April 28th?
I'll be back too, I think.
Sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back.
It's like my in-laws. April 28th at 8 a.m.?
Nobody gets respect.
And the in-laws.
Yeah, 8 a.m. So if that works for everybody, that works good for me. That's good. All right. So with that, any other business?
No, thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Colin T.
Motion to adjourn would be in order.
Make that motion.
A motion, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody.